Hello, everyone. I am really excited to be here. I am here having a conversation with MontaQue Ruffin, who is an animator with Pixar Animation Studios. And MontaQue actually grew up right around here in Bucks County, and he's joining us from California. Hello, MontaQue.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here.
Yay. And MontaQue is a graduate of the School of the Arts in New York City. And he was one of the animators behind Finding Dory, behind The Incredibles 2, and Toy Story 4, and behind the hit film Soul, which I loved. So
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
again for joining us, MontaQue. And I want to get started by asking you, you seem to have a dream job, a job that so many young people would love to have, that so many older people would love to have. Can you talk about some of the key moments in the path that you took to get to where you are?
Yeah, of course. Well, first and foremost, I wouldn't be here had it not been for, those that believed in me and support system. So my family, friends, mentors. I think for me, it may come to a surprise. Like when I saw Disney films growing up or Pixar films growing up, I never had that moment of like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. Like I was so much into like video games and like, I thought, my life trajectory was going to go in one direction. But looking back, I think just being open and like allowing yourself to just be curious. I think we sometimes have like this pressure that we need to like have everything figured out before we go to college, right? And and there's so much to like who you are that you just need to have the experience. So I think the biggest tentpole is just remaining curious and following my interests. And the only way to doing that is just to try new things. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but that's how I got to where I'm at today.
Yeah, it doesn't sound cliche at all. I want to know. It is interesting that you weren't that when you were growing up, you didn't necessarily say, "I want to do this exact thing," but that you were open to doing it. To what was the moment where you decided, "I'm going to go to school, going to go to this particular school, or and I'm going to study this particular thing." What drove you to do that?
Yeah, so I had a big interest in video games, and I remember the exact moment that kind of catapulted me into like 3D, right? So growing up, I was into art, video games. I wanted to always make my own video game as long as I could remember. And I remember one time I went to GameStop with my father, the bookworm. And I went there with the intent of like getting the latest RPG game or Halo, and my dad sees this book at the cashier counter, and it's called Pay to Play. And it was called Pay to Play: An Insider's, gamer's career. It's like one of those books that really goes into like the roles that goes into a 3D production video games. So you got like your what's a character TD, technical director, what's an art director, what's an animator, what's a rigger. And I just remember opening up that book and being glued to it, like just highlighting everything, like everything about the job descriptions, the roles. Something in me kind of gravitated towards that, and in that book had a list of colleges that had like computer animation programs, and one of those was the School of the Arts. And then also too, they had a listing of 3D softwares. So like Autodesk Maya, 3ds Max, Blender, and I even during my junior year of uh, high school, I downloaded like a Maya personal learning edition. Autodesk has like a free license for students that are interested. And at the time, it was kind of like just following my interests. Luckily, my dad had like a lynda.com account, but but I remember trying it out, and I ironically remember trying animating, and I was like, well, this is so difficult. I don't know how. I kid you not. I remember saying, I don't know how like those Pixar animators do what they do, but like kudos. I'm gonna just be a 3D modeler, which does like the building of the characters rather than moving them around. Um, so from doing a lot of like personal projects of like creating characters and like modeling. When I got to the School of Visual Arts, when we did animation and something did click for me, it was like, okay, I've already kind of vetted out these other aspects of 3D and animation. Like this is something that I haven't felt before. So yeah, from there it kind of snowballed.
That's really interesting that you, it seems like to some degree you were self taught. And also, I mean, with the help of course, lynda.com and some other things, but also
Mm,
that you looked at this and you said, I don't know how people did this. This is really challenging. Can you
yeah.
talk about, I feel like this is the kind of job that seems unattainable. Can you talk about the moment where you said, "Oh wow, no, I'm doing this. I'm doing this with not just I'm not just becoming an animator, but I'm becoming an animator with one of the biggest studios in the world."
Yeah. So I think you're referring to like before I got to Pixar, or is this like at
Oh
some
no, I'm
point like,
thinking when you got to Pixar, when you
oh, okay. Yeah. So how did that feel like? Or
yeah, yeah.
it even still till this day. So I interned at Pixar almost coming up 8 years come June. So summer of 2013. And I just remember like the first day when I walked in, my whole body went numb. I was like numb. I was like, am I pitching myself? And I still feel that way today. So no exaggeration. It's like, wow, I grew up in college, like looking at interviews of some of my colleagues, and like looking at their work and hearing their stories, and that kind of fueled me to kind of keep going. And now I'm like working with them, and like we're having conversations and talking about life and work. So it's a blessing. It's a real blessing. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, just super thankful and counting my blessings every day. So.
It does answer my question and rather beautifully, so thank you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, of course, of
It
course.
seems like it's something that it's easy for many of us to take what we do for granted, and it seems like that's something that that you hang on to the magic of it, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And even too, like to go a little step further, like a lot of times we think that, working for a particular company or working for a particular project, like that's the thing that's gonna make me fulfill me. And this kind of goes back why soul kind of resonates with me so much. But what really fuels my just like the daily interactions at work, outside of work. And I think sometimes I'm just speaking for myself. We think that like we have to do something like great to like um, to create like a change and have an impact on society. But for me, it's like, hey, how are you? You just never know what people are going through, and just like I don't know, like that subtle shift where you're just appreciative of like others people's time on earth, and those small interactions really makes I don't know, keeps me going and crystallizes it even further than just working at a big studio at Pixar. It's great, as great as it is. But,
Yeah, it seems like, and for those of you who are watching, Soul is a film about a band teacher at a school who is without purpose, and he finally gets a gig of a lifetime with this amazing jazz performer named Dorothea Williams,
mhm.
and before that happens, he goes on this sort of adventure where he is. You could call it an out of body adventure, but he looks at he along with another character examine the meaning of purpose and of inspiration and of why we're here and what we can do while we're here. I think maybe I'm summarizing it. I'm summarizing what I took from the film, but it was a very, to me, a philosophical film. And it seems like you really gathered something from that work as well. Can you talk a little bit more about this idea of purpose and meaning that you took as you were getting a very intimate look at the behind the scenes of this film?
Yeah, so like what purpose means to me, or just like working on soul, or
Yeah, it could be any, yeah, purpose to
Anything?
you. Any of, if that changed a little bit working on Soul, or if it remained the same, it maybe.
Yeah, it's been a powerful experience, you know, like for me, yeah, it's one thing to work. Okay, so it's one thing to work at Pixar, just knowing like where I started and knowing like how far-fetched I felt like that was like a dream, but I still went with it. So like just seeing how that got nipped in the butt, and then to work on Pixar's first film that has a black lead that so happens to talk about like a very personal message for me. I love, you know, all of her films for different reasons, but yeah, I love it because I feel like Soul's message is timeless, right? Like it doesn't matter where you're at on the age spectrum. I feel like it's a film that you can go back to or rewatch, and it'll hit you differently because I feel like our definition of purpose, you know, it changes, it evolves over time as we get older, and it's not to say one definition is better than the other. It's just that's what it means to you at that moment, and you learn from it, and it takes you on a beautiful adventure. You learn more about yourself, and learn more about humanity, and I think that within itself is like a precious gift. So for me, purpose is, yeah, it goes back to like those day-to-day encounterments that you have with people. It doesn't matter if you've known them for 5 minutes, 5 seconds. You know, we're all a gift to one another, and I think not losing sight of that, you know, keeps my day brighter. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Can you, speaking of those day to day interactions, can you talk about the day to day life as an animator? What is your day like?
Totally. Oh man. Yeah. So animators, you know, we're kind of like the digital puppeteers at 3D animation. So my day is filled with just collaboration. If I was animating, uh, what would happen is that you know you would have story reels, right? And then in those story reels, they'll eventually get you know divvied out into sequences. And so for an animator, you usually get shot briefed on the sequence that you're in, and it could be you, it could be you know you, another animator, it could be five animators in a sequence, and so you're given up a chunk of shots. And in that shot briefing, you're in a room, mini theater, with a director, your supervisors, and other animators, and you're talking about like where's the character thinking, right? So what's the mood? What's their emotional state? And so you'll get that information, and for like the next 2 weeks, you'll plan. You'll sometimes record yourself. We have an acting room where you can self act out a performance if you so choose. You'll do research, and then you'll uh, infuse that all into like the character that you're animating. So Woody, Frozen, from Woody, from Miguel from Coco, to McQueen from Cars 3, to Joe, you know, on Soul. So you're trying to craft a performance, or craft, I shouldn't say performance, you're trying to craft a moment uh, in that character's life spectrum. So yeah, you kind of, you know, block out a shot and then you show the director, and you'll get some feedback. And so we're really are actors in a sense, like slash actors slash psychologists slash animator, because yeah, these characters we're not just moving them across the screen just for movement's sake. We're always thinking about why are they behaving the way that they are, and always trying to find the right emotional thread so that when you watch it all as an audience, like you're just with the character the entire time, and like you really feel what they're feeling. So yeah, that's my day to day, animating and collaborating.
I am surprised and floored at all the different skills it seems like you must bring into the studio. I'm hearing, obviously, being a team member, it feels like that's a little bit more important than I always thought that might be. But also this idea of imagination and this idea of storytelling and getting inside someone's head. I never imagined that animators were so I mean, 3D isn't even the word for it, maybe 4D, just so multidimensional. I feel like there's elements of fiction, of poetry, of of playwriting, script writing, screenwriting. Can you just talk a little bit more about the role of imagination and just how you keep that? What inspires you to keep imagining?
Oh wow, life itself. I think for imagination in our role, it kind of goes back to like that emotional thread, right? So there's like you're given a script or not script, but you hear what the character is saying, but really we're not just trying to hear them, we're trying to listen to what they're trying to get across, right? If I were to say like hi is way different than if I were to say hi, hi. There's like different like inflections that you hear in the reading of the line, and also what's my emotional state, like in terms of like what is on my mind. Am I reacting to a bit of information, or am I like trying to get information across? So I think for our use of imagination, we as animators, when crafting a moment, we have a play at how we want to portray that. And that's where it gets real fun for me, because there's like 1,000 ways, infinite amount of ways that you can say hi. There's an infinite ways that you can wave, right, and say hi. There's an infinite ways that you can hold your head, hi, 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 hi. So there's like all these variations and combos that as animators we get to play around, and like I think that's where like the acting and that imagination comes into play. And then of course like the if you want to add design to your animation, like in betweens or smear frames. Not that we do like a whole lot of smear frames, depending on like how realistic or stylized the animation is for that particular project. But that also has its own artistic um, imagination usage also.
Yeah, that's wow. There are a million ways a person can hold their head or say hi. It's true. Uh, can you talk about some of the challenges of your work? I mean, it seems like an amazing job, but there's got to be things that are challenging and difficult.
For sure. I think at Pixar, it's really just telling the best story that we can. I mean, we're fortunate to have like a great pool of talent and bright uh, human beings, but stories are tough. Um, I think as an audience, sometimes it's easy to look at our film and success after success after success, but one of the things that you realize quickly when you're on the other side is that we're our toughest critics, and we want to just really tell the best stories that we can. And it's not just, I wouldn't say it's because of like we feel like we need to be the best, but it's just for like the love of the craft, and like understanding the power and responsibility that comes with telling a story. And like it's like, oh man, I just want to maximize and make sure that these characters that we're presenting to the world, that they feel true and not just shallow. So I think that's the biggest global challenge on a micro personal like animator level. I think same thing. It's like, okay, what's the best moment? Like, how can I best capture this personality? And then you can get all into the technical aspects of it, like, oh, it's the physicality, and there's like the appeal and the face expression, and like the gesture and the timing. Back to like a wave, right? But like, is it like that type of wave? Is it like what's the feeling that I want to get across in any given action that I'm animating? So it's, yeah, trying to craft something that's perfection or striving for perfection. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how realistic. I mean, I just remember, I believe I'm older than you, and I remember the animation that I grew up with. It's amazing how far it's come, and just how nuanced and detailed it is. Do you ever get, I get writer's block sometimes, where I'm just like, I can't think of what to write. I am stuck. Do you ever get stuck Is that something that happens to animators?
Oh, for
Animators
sure.
work.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, we get sometimes, and I think when you do get feel that way, uh, don't be afraid. It's just taking a pause, get up from what you're doing, go take a walk. You know, I think the mind has a way of, the subconscious has a way of like finding solutions. If you're really thinking about it, but like it's like a muscle, you know, like if you work out, if you want to get ripped, right, you can go to the gym. It doesn't matter how much you lift weights, some things just takes time. There is something to be said about giving yourself time. And it's not to say that like you have to get up and like never return to it, but even if you just go and subtly shift your focus on something else, you know, and then revisit whatever it is that you're trying to creatively tackle, and you'll see what comes from it. Um, yeah, sometimes if I'm in a rut, I'll get another colleague's opinion on it, or maybe I'll just again take a break. Maybe I'll reshoot acting or do some research. Like, yeah, I guess I'll try to get clear on like why I'm stuck. But usually, 9.5 out of 10 times, the solution is just to take a little break and revisit.
Yeah, that's good advice. Sometimes it seems easier to bang your head against a wall, and that's really
Yeah,
not healthy.
for sure, for
Not
sure.
to mention what it does to your walls. It's not good. Um, so I wanna also ask you. It seems like you teach. Can you talk about any inspiration that you get from teaching, from educating others?
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's a gift, for sure. When I was in college, my freshman year, when I just started out learning animation for about 3 months, I never forget, winter break, I went home, I was reading The Illusion of Life, by um, Frank and Ollie, Disney Animators. And in that book, there was a section about gesture drawing and like the coming together of like studying and like getting better as a group with like-minded others that shared a common practice. And I remember being inspired, and I wrote my chairman at School of Visual Arts. I'm like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like there was like an animation club or something like that? And his response was like, that's a great idea. I look forward to like your first meeting. And so ever since that moment, there's always been a place that I realized in my heart that like I like being surrounded by like-minded artists and like learning things. Just something about team learning, and like what that can bring out of you. So I was the founder of SVA's first 3D animation club, and it's still going on till this day. And that's like a testament to like those that come after me and like just holding the torch and keeping that moving forward. So how that kind of transcends to how teaching and what that means to me today is it means a lot because I remember like having those goals and dreams and not knowing like how I'm going to get there, and I again back to that self teaching and like being curious and like having aspirations but not knowing like how to like proceed and just I don't know undergoing that whole process and seeing how it unfolded for me it really I told myself that if I ever figure out a thing or two about animation, like, and I have the opportunity to teach and like make somebody else's journey a little bit more pleasant, then I'm gonna take it. So it's great. I teach at California College of the Arts, part time, all part time. California College of the Arts, Berkeley City Community College, and Anim Squad. And then in the past, I've taught at Anim School. And I'm also currently like doing some part-time thesis advisor at School of Visual Arts. So it's great. It just keeps me on my toes, and it's a nice breakaway from like the day job and getting back into like student realm and like seeing what kind of great ideas and projects that they're working on. So I feel like I learned a lot from all of them as much as they learned from me. So it's just thankful, grateful that I could be part of that cycle.
That's awesome. And actually, the person I have to thank for to have this conversation at all is Carrie Hagan, who's one of your former
Yeah.
teachers.
Yep.
So thank
Yep.
you, Carrie, for introducing
Yes.
us.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, and it's also it would be good to know what you were like. What were some of the skills that you worked on when you were in high school, and middle school, and elementary school? What were some of the things that you worked on when you were in the classroom, and some of the things that you found difficult?
Yeah. I think it just comes back to what my parents instilled in my brother and I. Just treat others with respect and, just be kind. Not that I feel like we weren't or anything, but it's just that goes a long ways looking back, like even like showing respect with like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sir, or like, I don't know. I guess being curious. High school, man, that was a rare stage for sure. But yeah, just making sure you get the good grades. I know that is like the stereotypical get good grades and blah blah blah. But I think if you just focus on your schoolwork, you're subconsciously building like that focus, right? And you're actually developing skill sets when you're out in college or out in life. How do you be proactive in terms of like getting information that you need, or how do you like I don't know, study and prepare, retain information. But the biggest takeaway is just be kind, show respect, and I don't know, stay honest to yourself. I don't know if that was like taught, but it was something that I'm thankful that my parents valued. They never pressured me to like, I only applied to one college. I had like SCAD in the back of my mind, but I did my research because I knew my parents were going to invest a lot. And I was like, okay, at the very least, I need to like do my research. If this 3D is what I want to do, then I need to go and start learning 3D. I think that's why I started doing it in junior year, because I wanted to make sure like, hey, if I'm going to pursue this and my parents are going to support me in that, then I need to do my own fair share. So yeah, I'm just thankful that they didn't try to like persuade me to do anything else. I'm pretty sure if they had advice anything, it'll be from like them wanting uh, care for me and just have my best interest. But I think allowing yourself to follow that interest in you, that's really important. Because again, I feel like in high school, you feel like you have to have all the answers, and if you don't go to the right college, or if you don't enroll into the right program, or if you don't go to this particular college that's right after you graduate from high school, then like somehow you're left behind and like that's it. And like that's so not true, life is much more than just trying to get to a college right after high school. If you do, great. Don't I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but yeah, don't feel like you have to have all the answers so soon. Um, so that's another key takeaway. Show respect, be kind, be honest to yourself, and being okay with not feeling like you have to have all the answers. Um, yeah.
I am trying not to nod my head off because I'm just sort of like, yes, yes.
Oh,
I see
cool.
myself in that. I see myself as someone who thought that it was the end all be all if I didn't have all the answers. And oh my gosh, I need to know exactly what I'm going
Yeah.
to do. Otherwise,
Yeah.
life is over.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you seem very open. And can you talk about where do you see yourself going? I mean, you're very young. You're do you think you'll be in the same place? Do you think you might try something else? I don't know, underwater botany, or going into space, or
Nice.
I,
Space one's cool. Um, it's hard to tell. I think I very much enjoy what I do. Very much enjoy the season of my life. You know, yeah, I'm open, but for what it's worth, I think I'm just playing it month to month, year to year, and then you do that long enough, and then time's just gonna take care of itself. And I don't know. Let me think of a better answer. Hey, whatever it is that I'm doing, as long as when I check in with myself and I'm like honest and it's where I want to be at, and I think that's what's most important. So I think teaching and animating, that's been like the sweet spot for
Yeah.
me. But you never know how life works. But fortunately, I don't need to have all the answers right now.
Exactly. That's what we talked about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't have any other questions. If you do, you have any other thing to add? Any advice or anything that you would tell young people who watch who watch this conversation?
Well, hey, first and foremost, thanks for taking time out to hear me speak. Um, know that you're the gift. Your life, your existence is the gift. It's not so much about like what you are, it's who you are, and I think sometimes we can lose sight of that. Um, yeah, and enjoy life. It's easier said than done on certain days for sure. But looking back, you know, I wouldn't trade the experiences that I've had for anything. And I think everybody is a gift. I really do think that. And when you approach life like that way, I mean, how can you not have patience for one another? And I think, yeah, it's okay. Life will always meet you halfway. So it's
Mm,
just follow your curiosity. Don't don't feel like you're the odd one out if you don't have all the answers. It's okay. It's really okay. Life will meet you halfway. Just stay your course, be open, yeah, and enjoy the time here. Time is the gift. So
mm.
I think that's all I have to share. Yeah, and thank you again so much for having me here. It's
Oh,
been a pleasure.
absolutely. Absolutely. And this conversation was a gift to me. I have a lot to take home, and I hope those of you watching also have a lot to take home. So, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, everyone. Well, have a great night.